Tool is one of the biggest rock bands of all time. They've won 4 Grammy Awards, sold out shows all over the world over the past 3 decades of being a band. And their drummer, Danny Carey, is one of the best drummers in the world. But what is it about his drumming that makes him so good? After studying hundreds of hours of footage, I found 7 drumming secrets that Danny Carey uses consistently that secured his spot as one of the most impossible drummers of all time. Now, when you see Danny Carey play, you'll see that he has multiple ways that he plays different aspects of his drum set.
Don't touch it. It can never be played.
But Danny will do this simple thing that almost none of us ever do, and that is turn our snare wires off. Because when Danny plays his snare without the snare wires on, it immediately sounds more tribal, which is a huge part of Tool's overall sound. And it gives this cool tension and release feeling to the overall song. This single switch can add a whole new dimension to your overall drum sound, not only for yourself as a drummer, but for your band as a whole.
I started doing that just because I wanted to have somewhere to go, like during the song, like, oh, okay, I can start off like this, and then come to the chorus, I'll whip on the snares, and it's like, oh my God, you know. So
yeah,
that was the original intention behind doing that a lot. But I became really attached to the sound. Sometimes I use it all the way through. You know?
But manipulating your drum sound doesn't just stop at turning your snares off. You can also put a towel over your snare to get a different sound like this. Or really weird random objects on your drums like this. Or simply stacking 2 cymbals together to get a unique sound. Now, I'm gonna rank each one of these secrets so you know exactly what to expect when trying them out for yourself. Now, I'm gonna rank this as easy because it is incredibly easy to make large changes in your drum sound with very simple solutions. One of Danny Carey's biggest secrets is that he doesn't actually play like a drummer at all. Instead, he plays more like a guitarist. So lead guitar players will typically play a lot of the melody in an overall band. And Danny is one of those few drummers that creates melodies through his drum beats. Now, creating melodies is a huge hack to instantly boost your creativity and boost your style on the drum kit. And this is what most famous drummers do and what helps them stand out, like Danny Carey, like Travis Barker, Luke Holland. These are all guys who are famous for creating really cool melodies on the drum set. So here's a framework you can follow to create melodies for yourself. Step 1 is to start off with a pretty basic halftime groove, like this, for example. So some of the biggest things that can help you create melody on the kit are effect type cymbals. So it could even just be an open hat, it could be a bell of a ride, it could be a stack cymbal, a splash cymbal, maybe the rims of your drums, or even your toms. Now, once you've identified your melody players on the kit, add in 2 to 3 of them in a given groove. So now your beat can sound like this. Playing melodies on your kit instead of just rhythms will instantly separate you from most other drummers. It'll boost your creativity and boost your overall drumming style. So I'm gonna rank playing melodies as hard because it's easy to just stick with the groove, and oftentimes you should, but if you want to up that creativity, adding that extra melody layer can be quite difficult. And don't worry about writing any of this down because I've created the free notation that will teach you the skills to start playing like Danny Carey. On top of this, I've included 3 free lessons to teach you to be a melodic drummer, a drummer who can play in odd time signatures, and play polyrhythms just like Danny Carey. Click the link in the description below and I will send it to you completely for free. Now, if you thought the previous point was impressive, this next one is going to blow your freaking mind. But almost every other modern band uses it, and some people even call it cheating. And it's actually insane that Tool doesn't use this when they're playing live because they always sound so tight. It turns out that Danny Carey does not like playing to a metronome live.
So you're playing without a click?
Yeah, I've never tracked a Tool song to a click.
Awesome.
You know. It kind of takes some magic out of it, I think.
Now you might be wondering, well, how does the timing of each song stay consistent night after night? And the answer is, it doesn't. And Danny Carey prefers it that way.
I think it's okay if things kind of speed up and slow down a little bit. I breeze a little. Most of the stuff I grew up listening to, like all that old prog stuff, you hear it now.
Yeah, but even though many of Tool's songs fluctuate in tempo, Danny always stays locked in. And this is what makes him an absolute time master. He could be playing the most insane polyrhythm ever, but he always keeps it locked. So that begs the question, should your band play with a metronome when you are playing live on stage? Well, it depends. If you are a band where the lights in the video and the backing tracks are all programmed to a metronome, well then yes, you should definitely play with a metronome. Or if you're a drummer who just likes to have a reference click at the start of a track because you're hopped up on adrenaline, I think that's totally fine too. However, no matter who you are, you should have at least the ability to play without the metronome. And the best way for you to do that is first, practice to a metronome. Now, if that's already easy for you to do, then step 2 is to add space in between your clicks. So what that means is you could have the metronome on for one measure and then off for the next measure. And then what that forces you to do is to stay in time for when the metronome starts back up. But this is a really fun exercise to really improve your timing. Now I'm gonna rank this as frustratingly difficult. Not because playing without a click at a gig is hard, but because playing without a click at a Tool gig is very, very hard. Danny Carey is so freaking good that some people even question if he's human. And guess what? He's not. That's right, you heard it here first. Danny Carey is a cyborg, because when he is asked if he prefers to play acoustic or electronic drum sets, his answer is this.
Both. Both is good.
Now here's the deal. Electronic kits almost never live up to the sound that you can get from acoustic kits. But Danny Carey isn't looking to replace his acoustic sounds.
I love the sound of my real drums, so I like the idea of using them as more textures and colors to throw into songs.
And electronic sounds have become such a staple in Tool's sound that if you removed them, so many of the songs would lose a lot of that personality. Now, while all the purists will argue that electronics should not be part of your acoustic sound, well, those purists also love Tool, so try to figure that out. And honestly, I'm gonna rank this one as easy. It's very easy to simply purchase an SPD or really any type of trigger setup to your overall kit, but it is a huge win that can overall elevate the sound of your drumming and elevate the sound of your band. The next thing that Danny Carey is an absolute genius at is the reason why he's your favorite drummer's favorite drummer. Danny Carey is an absolute monster at playing polyrhythms. For example, he can easily play a group of 3 with one hand while playing a group of 4 with his other hand. And typically drummers would stop polyrhythms at just 2 limbs playing 2 different rhythms. But Danny Carey plays polyrhythms with all 4 limbs going on at the exact same time. Now, if you want to uplevel your grooves and enter the world of polyrhythms, here's what you can do. The first step is to simply play quarter notes on the kick drum. Now, along with those 3 quarter notes, we are going to play groups of 4 with your dominant hand. That would sound like this. Now, step 2 is we're just gonna add a simple backbeat on the snare drum that sounds like this. Now, step 3 is where we're gonna add a little bit of spice to this groove so it doesn't sound so robotic. So we're gonna add in some ghost notes and some slight variations to the overall groove. I'm gonna rank this as impossible because almost no one can play polyrhythms like Danny Carey can. Danny Carey has a huge range of skills, but there is one singular skill that you absolutely need if you're trying to play in a progressive rock band like Tool. See if you can spot what it is in these clips. Now what Danny is playing here is something that most drummers struggle with or don't even attempt to play. I'm talking about playing drums in odd time signature. So instead of just counting to 4 in every measure, you're counting to odd numbers like 5, 7, even 9. Now odd time signatures typically run into 2 huge problems. 1, they sound very robotic and stiff, or 2, they are way overcomplicated and not enjoyable to listen to at all. But Danny Carey has found a third option that makes his odd time signature grooves sound amazing. He makes them sound so natural that casual listeners might not even know the song is in an odd time signature. But the reality is, playing odd time signatures can be really hard to develop. So here is my odd time signature prism that will help you get better in 3 steps. Step 1 is to simply start counting. In this case, we can use 7/4 as an example. Try to break up this number into smaller chunks. So instead of counting to 7 every time, you could break it up into counting to 4 and then counting to 3. And you can even take it further by counting to 3, 3, and then 1. As you start to get comfortable counting to 7 in different ways, different types of grooves will come out. And that leads us to step 2, where it's time to just play a very, very basic groove in an odd time signature and just get comfortable living in that world for a while. If you really, really want to take this seriously, set your timer for 20 minutes and just play the most basic groove that you possibly can in 7/4 time. And after you've done that, it leads us to step 3, where it's time to start focusing on feel. So take that basic groove, start adding in ghost notes, start making the kick drum pattern a little bit more complex, and really start to bring this groove to life. Now I'm gonna rank this secret as frustratingly difficult because you do not hear this in songs often, so we have to train our brains, but if you spend time working on it in these 3 steps, it will help you out big time. From mystic lyrics to sacred geometry concepts in their songs, it's no secret that Tool's a pretty weird band. But there's one sacred ritual that Danny does every time before he performs. And this ritual has helped him keep his endurance up to play drums live for decades and decades.
My warm-up ritual is I do it on a pad just here in the dressing room, just to get the blood flowing.
And it doesn't just stop at drumming.
I jump rope. That's the last thing I do before I hit the stage.
In Danny's sacred ritual, he always warms up on the pad for 30 minutes and jumps rope before hitting the stage. And because he's done this for over 30 years, he has never injured himself on stage, which is crazy because he's one of the hardest hitting drummers in the business.
It's a loud band, and it's very physical. I go through 3 snare drum heads every night.
Now you don't have to do exactly what Danny Carey does, but having a nice pre-show ritual before a show has the ability to really warm up your physical body so that you can go out there feeling fresh, and also puts you in a good mental headspace as well. But I'll share with you what's really worked for me over the years and years that I spent touring. The first thing I do is really try to loosen my limbs. That's both my arms and my legs. Me personally, I like to use a massage gun and a series of stretches. Step 2 is to do very, very basic patterns on a pad or a towel or a couch or anything that you have that really just get the gears in your arms moving. Really, all I want to do is connect with my technique and get my limbs warm. Then finally, I have a simple drumming playlist on Spotify of songs that I just like to jam out to, and I will play along with these songs on a pad or a couch or a towel or whatever I have, and use both my legs and my arms, again, to really get everything warm. Routine is always beneficial and will always put you in the right mindset. Now, I'm going to rank this as hard, but it can't be nearly as hard as preparing for playing in front of hundreds of thousands of people like Josh Dun does every single night. If you want to uncover his drumming secrets that allow him to be the insane drummer he is for 21 Pilots, then click this video to check it out.